Personality, health, emotionality, and sleep. So, Dr. Ravindra PN, kindly.
Namaste. The outset, I thank the director, sir, and Dr. Varun and his team who have invited me to share some thoughts. So I bring the greetings from National Institute for Mental Health and Neurosciences, one of the pioneer institute of our country in terms of neuroscience, and where I represent the Center for Consciousness Studies there. And one of the objective of our center as a Center for Consciousness Studies is to integrate some of the Indian philosophical attributes into the neuroscience, which we have started our journey. And of course, the approaching consciousness is not so easy, but still with the limitations of, say, the technology or the limitations of the research methodology, limitations of getting the subjects, right? Still, okay, we are taking a very small steps the way forward. However, all our experience when we talk about the consciousness studies from CCS NIMHANS dates back almost 15 to 20 years back when we started the sleep studies. So we are the pioneer in the sleep studies in our country, where we have a huge data about the sleep, about the normal, about meditators, different disease conditions, how sleep actually, it varies. And so one of the the question that came to us is very important thing, even for the holistic health, whether it is in a normal, healthy individual or in a diseased people, whatever may be the severity of the disease, is the perception of the sleep quality. How actually a sleep perception of a sleep quality is perceived is again a big mystery till today. When in sleep, when there is no sensory input that is coming up, or to have a very minimal sensory input, when your higher regions of the brain, it's not been working still properly. Still, when somebody gets up in the morning and he says that I had a very wonderful sleep, what does it mean? Because this plays a very important role, even to understand the symptomatology of the patients, even symptomatology of our day-to-day affairs, all those things, that how actually. So this was a very basic question which was posed to us, and then we deliberated a lot of things on this, and out of this, we consumed, okay, we should have the Center for Consciousness Studies taking meditation, sleep, and cognition as one of the model to understand various aspects of perception, both in the normal healthy individuals, in meditators, and also in some of the selected diseased the parameters. So with this brief background, what Center for Consciousness Studies at NIMHANS is approaching, I would like to share some of our work and also thoughts in this direction. The last three speakers have made it very easy, and there can be a lot of overlaps. Being the overlaps, it's just itself is a testimony that our ancient the approach towards holistic well-being has a commonality, irrespective of the academic background that we come or we are the specialized in. So right. So we know now the trend from communicable to non-communicable disease is enhancing, and especially in our country, right, it has been estimated by, again, the authority of WHO that 60% of all deaths in India in due course of time will be from non-communicable diseases. Though non-communicable diseases has been the major non-communicable disease where the cardiovascular, diabetes, COPD, cancer has been listed, but this is not the list. It can continue, but these are the major public health burden at this point of time. So, but most interesting thing over here is, of all these non-communicable diseases, the lifestyle factors, they play a very important role. What are these lifestyle factors in which the WHO has enlisted? Like physical inactivity, right? And the alcohol consumption, tobacco consumption, incapability to handle the day-to-day stress. It has been one of the 4 modifiable factors. There can be some other non-modifiable factors also. Say, for example, high susceptibility as a genetic trait, but it is not completely modifiable. So we have certain modifiable factors plays a very, very important role. But because we have a lot of students over here, want to tell that, right? Even there are reports that which tells that around 13% of our adolescents, they are physically inactive. That in due course of time, it can lead to ill health and ill well-being in their life. So how do we handle these things? So there are a target has been given, right, by the UNICEF and also with our own ministry with 2025. What are the things that we need to target? So already government has set up a target, but what is the approach in which we have to reach the target? How is that this target has to be approached from the holistic perspective is what actually that we need to deliberate. There is no need for us to fix the target, it's already there. But the path in which we need to take to reach this target is very, very important. Apart from all the 4 conditions which I told, one of the important thing probably that is emerging but not well recognized is about the insufficient sleep syndrome. This is called as a syndrome at this point of time. It is called as insufficient sleep syndrome. For the various modifiable factors, especially comes with the lifestyle, where the present day generation has been going through. And these insufficient sleep has known to be a complete risk for many other diseases which you can see on this slide. Not only the disease, but it also hampers your day-to-day activity, right? Low cognition, low mood, fluctuating mood, irritability, right? All these things can come under because of, right, insufficient sleep. Though we may not go for a consultation because we don't have, we have insufficient sleep, but the underlying damage because of insufficient sleep will be persistent and probably, right, years to come, right, and it will emerge as one of the any disease condition. Therefore, one of the talk that comes at this point of time is, can we have this insufficient sleep syndrome as also one of the major non-communicable, right, a syndrome. It's not a disease, but it's a syndrome, that is coming up. So we'll just try to see how can we handle all these things. So with this particular background, where the UNICEF has given 5 doses for the mental well-being, it's already been touched upon. Like, we have to be active, we have to take a notice of ourselves, our feelings, and also of the society. See, this is very important, say from neuroscience perspective. How do I recognize what is the feeling or the sensation that I'm experiencing? This particular capability for an individual to go inside or introspect, deep inside in his physiological system and try to recognize his own feelings, right, and try to modulate is a very skill. This skill is what actually lacking, right, in our training. Now, why this skill is very important? This skill, in the technical terminology, it is called as interoception. Interoception is, as from the physiological point of view, it is on a given mental state, how is that our viscera that is there, or our body, right, it gets mapped in my neural network. And the pattern in which these visceral, they get mapped in my neural network is one of the indication where I get a sort of feeling. Say, for example, I may be a very anxious person, I may be a depressed person, I'm feeling very lonely. So at this point of time, our attribute is always to point out the circumstances as a causative factor. But it's not so. The driving force the triggering factor can be a circumstances that is outside, but the way that triggering factor brings about physiological changes in my system and the way that is mapped in my neural network is what determines what I feel. So the skill of an individual to understand these feelings is called as interoception, is what the skill that needs to be trained. And fortunately, our tradition has a tool for these things with yoga and meditation, other things where we enhance our interoceptive skills. So therefore, when we say of an attention, so I'll come to that in due course of time. Attention, we generally tend to tell that you should have a more attention skill. Means what? You be more attentive to an external, say target, whatever it is. But here, in emotional style, attention is that what am I being more attentive to my own inner visceral feeling that I'm getting. Right? So this interoceptive skill is a very, very important thing. Then, of course, we should say be more altruistic, be more into social thing. That is one of the parameter in which they have established for having a mental well-being. And of course, the lifelong learning should happen, and more important to have a good social connect. So these are the 5 important things which have been told to have a good mental well-being. So out of this, we'll try to understand 3 important things and insights that come, say, from our philosophical dialogues. Madam has really put her very clearly about Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and also Gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So all of you know about this. But having known what is Sattva, what is Rajas, and what is Tamas, and we know that these 3 important components, they are not exclusive for each other. They are always in dynamic, the relationship with each other. But one of the important goals today in a research community that has been proposed is to understand what do you mean by a new word has been coined. It is called a sattvification. How can a person can become more and more sattvic? Right? So becoming a sattvification or understanding the correlate of a sattvification, right, has been one of the research agenda, right, in the contemplative neuroscience. So of course, this combination is what, right, it brings about emotion regulation capability. So with this particular background, so I need to just focus on how do we integrate these things and what is the outcome that we are seeing. So we have something called as 6 emotional universal style, and this has been termed, we have a very clear definition for all these things, and these terminology and also scales are available. But these are not only the 6 emotional style. There can be many other emotional styles, but these 6 emotional style is been designed based on a very specific neural circuitry in the brain that acts, and we know how it acts. On this empirical evidence, these 6 emotional style has been coined. Resilience, outlook, social intuition, self-awareness, sensitivity to context, and attention. Out of all these things, attention is the most primary thing, because attention is the one important component you take into any practice, any school of meditation practice or yoga practice that has always been emphasized. You do your yoga practice, it can be simply asana based, yes, no issues, but still, where is your attention? You are doing in a posture, but you are thinking something else, it is not going to work. You are in an asana posture, is your attention on your bodily feelings? Is your attention on stretch, some pain, some pleasure, or something is happening? Yes, your brain dynamics is entirely different. You are in a posture, but you are thinking, oh, I have to go to office, I have to meet my boss, and I have to do this work and that work. Your brain dynamics is entirely different. So this attention is one of the very important, the trainable skill, right, that has been recognized as a starting point of all these 6 emotional styles. Now, after emotion, there is a self-awareness. That is, which I told you, that how sensitive is your system to recognize the feeling that is generated, okay, from your bodily dynamics. If you can recognize that, right, and you can modulate it, yes, you have got a different skill set, right, to modulate your own, say, emotion. So these are the 6 emotional style, and we did and also I told you that these emotional styles are associated with a very specific neural circuitry underlying, right, and studies have shown that, right, in some of these with emotional style, where you have a very diminished connectivity with 2 important regions. One is with the amygdala and the anterior cingulate, right. These people are more prone for anxiety or anxiogenic. They may not be diagnosed as having any anxiety disorder, but they are more prone for it. Why they are more prone for it? Because the connectivity between these 2 networks is very weak. Can we build this connectivity? Yes, we can build this connectivity by various practices that are being prescribed in our text. So this just I wanted to give you the overview of what actually these emotional styles are, and these emotional style, as we practice, right, so it can bring about a change in our personality also. As I told you, right, we have sattva, rajas and tamas, right. The characteristic of these things, right, bring about the changes with our brain circuitry as well. So with this thing, we just initiated this, right, having the correlation study with sattva, rajas and tamas and various emotional styles, and we found that the sattvic personality or predominance of a sattva personality will have more predominance of all these emotional styles. Means that a person, even with this sattva, rajas and tamas, it has 2 important characteristics, trait and state. What do you mean by state? In a given context, in a given situation, right, I may become very angry, right, I may become very dull. That is depending on the context in which I am facing it. But you have a trait characteristic. Trait characteristic is that which is a long-term thing. Say, for example, I am predominantly a sattvic personality, but I am in a situation where I need to become angry, and I am going to become angry, right? But my resilience will be very fast, that then I come out of my anger very fast. Or otherwise, say if my trait personality is more rajasic in nature, the same context, right, I become angry unnecessarily, right, I will become more angry, and more important is that my anger is sustained for a long period of time. So this sustenance of any emotional state for a long period of time, and my capability to come out of, say, all this negative anger at a faster rate, it also determines my physiological changes that can happen. And in turn, it brings about a lot of the risk factors for the developing many things. So therefore, we found that sattvic personality has a good correlation with all these emotional styles. And I told you that these emotional styles is depending on a very specific neural circuitry that is present in the brain, and that is expressed as a behavior. So this is the link where we can really connect between the various aspects that is described in the text, and also with some of the say third-person perspective evidences. So what are the characteristic of these 3, right? Sattva, rajas and tamas, right? We have a focused on attention, of predominantly an internal awareness. A person who has a high skill to have an internal awareness is termed as he has a trait characteristic of sattvic, basically he's a sattvic personality, but given a situation, he become more aggressive, right? He can become a rajasic. And for rajasic, he has a more external awareness, and sattva has a person who is more emotionally stable, right? And sattvic person, he gives a very fitting expression, right? On the context, he doesn't exaggerate. Again, the exaggeration, right, of any given situation, okay, is of a different type of personality, right? And there is a difference in the attitude about oneself between sattva and rajas, and attitude towards others also is there between sattva and rajas. Of course, tamasic personality is a completely different, the aspect of this. So why I brought these into picture is, in positive psychology at this point of time, the lot of emphasis has been growing of interest to try to understand the vulnerability of the various neuropsychiatric conditions, or maybe for the other non-communicable diseases also, based on their personality types. So therefore, these personality types are modifiable. Emotional styles are modifiable. So we have a common thing. As I told you, this emotional style is skill. We can learn it. If I'm a predominantly a rajasic, can I become a more sattvic? Yes. You have a prescribed things that you need to do. Yes. In due course of time, you can become sattvic, right? In emotional style, I don't have a more of self-awareness, but can I cultivate that? Yes. You have a prescribed skill. You practice it, right? Your neural circuitry will change correspondingly, right? Your behavior is also going to change. Your capacity will also going to change. In turn, it is going to influence your health and well-being also. So therefore, you take any of these yoga meditation practices, there are 4 important components which even the neuroscience has recognized. Attention, which I told you, awareness of the feelings that comes, emotion regulation, and also the perspective of self, which will also bring about the purpose of life or the world view, all those things. Now, all these things play a very important role, right, in bringing about my subjective sense of illness, well-being, and also disease state. There can be a condition where a disease state can be very alarming, but still a person can be in a state of well-being. So we need to distinguish between these two things. Health and well-being, no doubt they are connected, right? But there are in few people, they are absolutely healthy, as the earlier slide was there, right? But he may not be feeling well at all. But there can be a state where the person is absolutely, he has a full-blown disease, but still he can feel, a peace, from deep within, and he can have a sense of well-being. So your sense of well-being is your mental state. How do you train your own physiological signal and the pattern of your physiological signal that can map on your neural network? And this is the skill, right, that can be trained. And when this skill has to be imparted as a preventive measure, now we have to focus more on preventive and promotive measure. When it comes to curative, yes, we need the hospital setup, we need clinicians, yes. But when it comes to preventive and promotive concepts, the best is always at those engaged, because this is the time biologically where their neural network is at peak at its biological growth, especially, right, their higher mental functions is at its growth. And this is the time where, right, these skills has to be cultivated. Not only of these skills, even the studies have shown, right, when you have a higher purpose in your life. So somebody has a question of the purpose. When you have a higher purpose in your life, right, and your life is anchored for that of a higher purpose, how this a higher mental attribute can really bring down its effect to the most biological thing, the least, the biological the entity that we can at this point of time think is about the telomerase, where it's a small on your DNA telomere enzyme, telomerase length that determines the individual aging, cell cycle, so many other things, right? So studies have shown that, right, your purpose of life, your positive cognition, and when you feel that, okay, you are under your own control, right, the telomerase activity, right, is entirely different on the contrary to the other, your mental state. So therefore, my purpose of life, the skill that I acquire to manage my own emotional or to build that healthy emotionality, right, it has a effect, positive effect, and percolate even down even to that of a cellular level. And of course, so now we know all these things in totality. I told you about the philosophy of yoga and meditation practices. And if you go for the different components, so there are numerous studies that have shown that, right, these yoga practices brings about so many good chemical changes, hormone changes, it reduces depression, anxiety, negative symptoms, cognition will increase, sleep and all those things is going to increase. So therefore, everyday practice is very, very important. Now I'll come back to sleep, because this is the most neglected thing. And we take the sleep for granted. Like that. But in sleep, we have to understand many things happens. Sleep is not a passive state. Sleep is physiologically a very, very active state. My brain is in a different mode of activity during sleep. During NREM sleep, it is less active. During REM sleep, it is highly active. My hormone changes, my neurotransmitter changes, right? My respiratory system changes, my cardiovascular system changes, my neural connectivity changes. Everything, it changes during when I go to a sleep. And most important, my memory consolidation. Whatever that I have learned during my day, right? If it wants to get into more, for the memory consolidation, it happens during sleep. So therefore, sleep is very, very important. So sleep, my emotion regulating capability, right? They are very much linked with each other. If I feel that I am much more control of myself, right, and I can recognize my good and bad emotions and try to modulate it and get that control, right, definitely my sleep also will be very, very much better. So because sleep, a syndrome called as insufficient sleep syndrome has come, and it has been one of the most important modifiable risk factor for various other disease condition. So we need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but it's not about the duration of sleep. Most important that we need is the what we at this point of time, a new term is called sufficient sleep. Now what do you mean by sufficient sleep? It varies from individual to individual. For me, for my personality, 5 hours of sleep is enough. But for the same another person, for his personality, for his physiological makeup, he may need around 7 hours or 8 hours of sleep. So what we call now is sufficient sleep. Now what do you mean by sufficient sleep? When I get up in the morning, I should feel fresh. And sleep should not pathologically intrude in my day-to-day activity. Two important things. When I get up in the morning, I may feel very fresh, and am I active throughout the day, and sleep doesn't disturb my activity. If these two things, primary things, right, it is fitting the criteria, whatever the duration of night sleep that you are having, it can be 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, right? That is sufficient sleep for you. So as an individual, you people should decide what is your sufficient sleep for you, right? And this will has a very big impact on an individual health and well-being. Why this is important? I just wanted to give you some science behind this. We have something called as NREM sleep or a slow wave sleep. Slow wave sleep is also, in a layman terminology, it's called as deep sleep. It is this, in this particular state of sleep is what all the metabolites or the waste products that are get accumulated in my system, including the brain, it is gets drained. So my CSF flow, right? Okay, it helps to drain all the metabolites that are get accumulated. If I lose sleep, or if my slow wave sleep or the deep sleep get reduced, these metabolites, they get accumulated, and that is a potential risk factor for all the dementia. Tau protein gets accumulated, and we get memory related issues and dementia. And today we know that, right, the dementia related issues in the geriatric age group is a very big issue. That is related to, one of the factors, right, is related to sleep. And not only this, whatever that we have learned, that you learn in your school or colleges, it wants to get consolidated in the memory, right? There should be a dialogue between two important regions in the brain that happens during sleep, that is with hippocampus and also with other, say, neural network. Not only that, deep sleep is associated with our immune modulation, right? So all our, say, whatever the antigen that we are exposed in our day-to-day, if those antigens has to be placed as a memory cells in our system, and subsequently when we get exposed to that same antigen, and if these memory cells has to fight, and these memory cells, it happens during deep sleep. Now, why this is very important? One of the important thing, okay, which we found, I think I missed that particular slide, that we published in Sleep Medicine, one of the very important journal in sleep medicine, is that during COVID, a huge survey that we did, it showed that people who are suffering from dysomnia, they suffered most. Now, what is dysomnia? Is a sleep related issue. Why they were under, they are suffering from dysomnia? Because they were more anxious about the disease, right? So anxiety, they could not able to control. They had a sleep related issue, and right, they had a suffering. They could able to suffer from. There are high incidence of suffering from COVID related, these conditions. Therefore, our emotion, our sleep, our health, all those things, they play a very, very important role. And we have also found that, see, with normal aging, there is a changes in sleep as well. But in one of our study, it was very clear, which said that people who have practiced yoga and meditation regularly, they retain their slow wave sleep. Means deep sleep is retained even in the old age, right? So retaining deep sleep in old age speaks volumes, right, about the benefit that comes for both their physiological and also of their psychological health and well-being. Then the other important thing, one of the risks for the non-communicable disease, which I showed you, is about the cardiovascular. If you look at the epidemiological data, most of the untoward cardiovascular incidents, it happens early in the morning. Stroke, early in the morning. Myocardial infarction, early in the morning. Anything, it is predominantly is early in the morning. Why it happens early in the morning? It is related to sleep. Early in the morning, we have a REM sleep, which is high. And when REM sleep is predominant in the early in the morning, that brings about a lot of sympathetic activity, and you have a lot of coronary constriction that can happen. And because there is a constriction of blood vessels, if it happens in the neural system, stroke. If it happens in the heart, it becomes a myocardial infarction. Why it happens? Because the system is not very much resilient to counter the surges of the sympathetic activity that happens during REM sleep. Now, in one of our work, we have shown that even with the old age, when there is a sympathetic surges that happens during REM sleep in the early in the morning, but it was effectively buffered. So that buffering capacity, right, of a physiological system, right, it is brought about by this regular yoga and meditation practice. So therefore what? It means that, of course, even though it was a very, a lab-based study, we need to translate that into the field and see whether it is really a fact or not. But still, right, we can say that yoga meditation is not only for curative purpose. Of course, it also has a very preventive aspect. And also, few other work, that has been carried out, which I want to emphasize, is about, sorry. There are certain hormones, right, which have been very much beneficial. So I would like to emphasize only two important things. One is on melatonin. We know that melatonin, you take anything good, right? Melatonin and it comes and say, hi, I am here. It is somnogenic, it's a feel-good hormone, antioxidant, you take anything, right? Melatonin comes, yes, I am here. So we have found that, in meditators, melatonin is very high in their circulation. That could be one of the reasons that it can bring about various, positive beneficial effect. And that is one of the things that we have shown. And not only that, the slow wave sleep, which we showed that it is very good, right, with all these meditators, it is associated with one more hormone, it's called as DHEA. So why I want to emphasize this? See, cortisol, we know that it is important stress hormone. It is important. So nobody can't say that I am not in stress. If somebody says I'm not in stress, it means that, he's really, he's a liar. Okay. Right? No, it's not. Stress is imperative. Use stress is a must. Cortisol level for our efficient productivity action is a must. It really brings, it really tunes my neural network for my efficient action. But if it crosses the limits, right, it's not good. But one important thing we have to understand, where the nature has given this stress induced called as cortisol, which is increasing, in the same mechanism, nature has given another mechanism to counteract the adverse effect of cortisol, whereby increasing DHEA. DHEA is another hormone with the same axis, the same hypothalamo-pituitary-adrenal axis that we talk about stress, the same thing which increases DHEA also, which is an anti-stress. So you have, in a given context, stress is there, cortisol is increasing to a certain extent, then suddenly, right, DHEA also will increase. And this will in turn, it counteract the adverse effect of stress. Now this will come when you have a big resiliency in that physiological system, right? And this increase in DHEA, right, has also been correlated with very good sleep and cognition. Right, so two important things of which I want to emphasize about melatonin over here and DHEA with our N3 sleep stage. Now, all these things, right, it brings about two important, right, things. Changes in our system. We call it as, all of you know about this terminology called as neural plasticity. So which brings about a structural and the functional changes in my system. What do I think? How do I handle my emotion? What is the purpose of my life? What is my daily routine? Am I doing my physical activity correctly? How is my diet, whatever the food that I consume? All those things has an impact, right, on your system. And this in turn, the system that the changes that brings about in the neural, we call it as neural plasticity changes. So four important mechanisms, how all these things plays an important role. Number one, neural plasticity. Structural and the functional plasticity that comes. Second, a communication between your viscera and the brain. and my capacity uh, uh, to capture the feeling that is generated. That is the second. The third, right, is much more, which I told you is about epigenetic mechanism, right, of the mental, say, construct that I create in my mind, whether it is good or bad. It percolates down to various neurohormonal thing, and it will influence even my genetic material, which we call as epigenetics. So these are the three most important thing, the basic mechanism in which all these our practices which influence our health and well-being. So having known the science of all these things, so this is just I wanted to emphasize, this is a paper from Nature, which also tells, you can see that, right, all my non-genetic variation, plays a very important role, how my brain works, right, nutrition, culture, motivation, emotional state, right, all those things are very, very important. So when I have that sense of well-being, of course, studies have shown that my left frontal cortex, when a person is feeling very highly elated and his sense of full of positivity, his left frontal cortex is very, very active, and where he has all these components like high levels of autonomy, environmental mastery, personal growth, purpose of life, self-acceptance. See, all these things, it's not philosophical. These are the practical life skills. But in our tradition, they have given in a framework of some certain practices that you have to do, that every day that you are supposed to carry out. But it has a very big, psychophysiological backup for these things. So if we, with all these things, so what are the action plans? Action plan is to focus on preventive and promotive. Number one, why? Two important things which before this I want to emphasize. We are working on adolescent depression with yoga intervention, because adolescent depression is now, of course, it's an emerging mental health public problem. Is my personal opinion, I'll tell you, friends. Adolescent depression, when it comes, I think more and more talk and counseling is needed to parents, but not to the patients. Parents are more than 60% to 70% they are culprit. Right? And when we go to the wards, and I've heard some of my scholars in the meeting, they tell me, sir, in the ward, the children will be sitting, of course, and they become friends, and they talk, what sort of parents we got here? They expect at this age me to be picture perfect. How is it possible? That is creating a lot of stress in me. This is what the children, they talk in the ward. And when they come, okay, we counsel so parents needs, a lot of counseling with this. Why I'm giving all these things? So where is that we need to focus on? Because we need to focus on different age groups, right? So when it comes, so it has to be on the, of course, the parents. And also, we have observed, we are giving, say, 4 months of in-person yoga intervention for this adolescent depression. With these 4 months, when I capture their sattva, rajas and tamas, the questionnaire thing, right? I can see slowly their sattva thing is increasing from their psychological domain, because that list has many things, but from their psychological domain, it is increasing. So at the school level, we should introduce an attention training into them. What is that attention training? Both for the external attention and also for the internal attention training. This skill has to be emphasized at the school level. Of course, physical activity, cultural activities, very important. Then develop that altruistic behavior at the school level, helping others, recognizing, right, me beyond my psychophysiological construct, right? That plays a very, very important role. nutrition plays a very important role at this point of time. Earlier, there was a discussion, gut-brain axis. Yes. So what we eat, how we eat, in what mental state that we eat, that determines. Today we know that gut-brain axis is an emerging area, right? And as far as sleep is concerned, I really recommend school time has to change. Today in Bangalore, children leave at 6:30, they travel, right, and they reach school at 8:30, right, and they will sleep in the school. And there's a lot of shift because see the whole circadian, their circadian rhythm is going to change. Because of their young age, their physiological system is very resilient. But in due course of time, it has its own adverse effect. So their school time has to change, right? And other important thing, say at the system level, what can be done is to introduce yoga as in the public health domain. We are doing a very small, important, intervention in this, especially trying to understand what is the effect of this on pregnancy and the outcome of pregnancy, especially in a district level, right? With a district level administration, with our module, ASHA workers, trained ASHA workers, and when they visit house, right, they give this yoga module to a pregnant woman, or when these pregnant women, they come to the PHC to collect their monthly benefits, whatever the government is offering, right? They are instructed, okay, you perform this, you have developed this skill, okay, if you are performing this, right, okay, this is the benefit, okay, we are going to give you. So it's just the trial and error to see that how all these modules, when it can be implemented even at the system level. So at the research level, at the personal level, at the educational setting, even at the healthcare system level. So there are a lot of ways that it can be implemented to bring about the holistic health and well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ravindra, for such a fascinating talk and urging everyone to come to the mode of goodness, Sattva-guna. In fact, the research, education and outreach activities at IIT Mandi, particularly emphasized by ICMA Center, Indian Knowledge System for Mental Health and Applications, is that everyone should come to the mode of goodness, Sattva-guna. That's the practical way to solve the lifestyle disorders. And you well supported your message with a lot of evidence-based neuroscience. It's really fascinating. Thank you so much, sir. So now it's time for questions. Yeah, only one question. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. My question is, how do we see dreams in terms of good or bad sleeping?
Say again.
If we talk about dreaming, so how we can talk about good sleeping or bad sleeping in terms of this science language?
Yeah. So you're talking about dreams, but anyway, just a deviation. We are doing some work on dreams also. But yeah, in the same, the COVID survey that we did, when we captured the dream content through a survey also. And of course, the dream content, it varied from person to person. If somebody had suffered from COVID, right, the family members, they had a certain pattern of dreaming. And if somebody, the doctors, who are working in the COVID thing, when they go to sleep, they have a certain pattern of dreaming. So that shows, see, the pattern of dreaming, of course, it varies with our day-to-day, the interaction that we do in our wake time. But dream is important. There is no doubt in that. And dream or the REM sleep is also one of the important component to have a sense of subjective, sleep quality. So this is what that I can say at this point of time. But except for the academic purpose, I don't think so we have to discuss too much about dream unless and until the dream is interfering in your day-to-day life. If dream is not interfering with your day-to-day life, you just enjoy dream, that's all, nothing else.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'm sorry.
नमस्कार सर।
नमस्ते।
मेरा एक प्रश्न है, जैसा आपने बताया कि इनसफिशिएंट एंड सफिशिएंट स्लीप, किंतु स्लीपिंग टाइम का एक बड़ा महत्व माना जाता है। ब्राह्म मुहूर्तेन उत्तिष्ठ ऐसा आयुर्वेद में बताया गया है, तो उसके ऊपर कोई अनुसंधान हुआ है क्या?
When you come for a sleep hygiene, one of the important thing that sleep hygiene prescribes is that you should have a fixed time for sleep. You go to bed in a fixed time and get up in a fixed amount of time. What is the time? You decide. Right? So I go to bed at 12 o'clock and I want to get up at say 7 o'clock and this is a sufficient sleep for me. Right? You fix for that particular time. But definitely not the person, right, who will be on its gadget till in the midnight, chatting throughout, okay, till 2 in the morning and 3 in the morning, and then he will say, no, I'm fixing my time 2 in the morning to 9 in the afternoon. No, this is not going to work. Why? Because when you take the circadian rhythm of our whole physiological system, we have a different hormones, that you have rise and ups and downs, right, at the different time period. And we have to be in tune of our lifestyle according to, say, that particular circadian clock. I and you cannot fix the circadian clock. Our whole system of circadian clock is dependent for the youngsters, I am telling you, it depends on sunrise and sunset. As the sun rises, my physiological will change. As sun is setting, my physiological thing is going to vary. So my whole lifestyle has to be dependent on my circadian rhythm that happens. But unfortunately, at this point of time, with 24/7 society and work schedule, it's not possible. But as far as possible, we want to have that particular lifestyle. Number one. Number two, sir, you mentioned about a Brahmi Muhurta. I cannot really give you any empirical evidence to say that on Brahmi Muhurta, but just to a conceptual thing is that my melatonin surge that happens is early in the morning. So it is, say, after 3:30, my melatonin, it goes up. So probably where it will induce a separate physiological atmosphere itself, right, and which can be a good conducive for other, say, activities. This is what just my on theoretical understanding, definitely not on any empirical evidence.
धन्यवाद.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We'll not take up any more questions. We are already running late, so we'd like to move on to the next speaker. So I would request Professor Chayan Nandi, the Dean of Resource Generation and Alumni Relation, IIT Mandi, to kindly felicitate Dr. Ravindra PM. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So we'll move on to the next speaker, our esteemed guest, Mrs. Radhika Bhalerao. Mrs. Bhalerao is the founder of Mohan Ashram, Pune, and she is a pioneer in different lifestyle handling different lifestyle diseases through superfoods, fad diets, and crash course and their impact on lifestyle. So we are extremely fortunate that she is here with us to share her words of wisdom with us. She is going to talk on the curious case of well-being, foundations of holistic health. So ma'am, please continue.
Thank you. Namaskar, and thank you for giving me this dais. I am humbled to be sharing this space with some great stalwarts and teachers in the area of health and well-being. And thank Professor Dr. Behra and Dr. Aarti Kashyap for this wonderful opportunity. I also wish to applaud the organizing committee for bringing together this one-day conclave in this G20S20 event on a very important topic, and I'm heartened to see the variety in presentation, but the commonality, as Dr. Ravindra has also mentioned, and the fact that it is inclusive and not dogmatic. There is science behind it. There is no dogma behind these sources of knowledge, which is a very important thing. And within this, it is fitting, I think, that the theme of Bharat's G20 presidency is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, as it talks of unity in diversity. Each of us are individuals here with diversity within and around us. And together, when we come, we form one unit. When there is lack of knowledge, when we lack knowledge and understanding of this diversity and the different manifestations that this diversity has, it translates into imbalances, right? We can say that in terms of climate change, for example. That is an imbalance, ultimately. But when the opposite is true, when there is a sense of balance, or when there is a balance that has been created, the unit experiences times of peace. And this is true at a more fundamental individual level as well, is it not? That of the human organism, at the level of the human organism. As Dr. Jaya had also mentioned, the human organism, and everybody else has also pointed to this, that the human organism is a very complex thing. It is much more complex than we can represent in our understanding even. It possesses practically innumerable properties and functions, and countless number of changes are available to them. So there is a possibility of changing this organism in a countless number of ways, all the way from the molecule to the mind. So also, there are countless ways to approach health holistically within the human organism. And so I'm here today to present an approach which is developed by my teachers, the Mohan family from Swastha Yoga. And my aim is to principally draw attention to the great strength offered by this approach, which is to empower individuals by helping them develop skills to restore balance and thus health and well-being. Dr. Ravindra has spoken about skills, and I'm very grateful that it has set the stage for what I'm about to present. And the approach that I'm about to present is scientific. It is informed by ancient wisdom, predominantly yoga and Ayurveda, and also related modern sources. Importantly, it is highly actionable. More so, through this presentation, I wish to highlight that well-being is not a trick. It is not a hack. You cannot find a pill that is going to bring you to a state of well-being. It requires effort. It requires the individual to take action. It requires the individual to do things. But this effort can be enjoyable. This effort can be easy. It need not be intense in the way that the current narrative around health and well-being is, right? So my effort here is to talk about the underlying jidnyasa, the desire to cultivate that health. That is something that is often overlooked. But why do we need this? Why do we need to meet here and discuss holistic health in the first place? If you just look around you, within your close circle, or you look to yourself even, you may discover that there is some room to create some type of change for a healthier environment. There may be some possibility there for a more peaceful environment. To understand that our health has an impact on the health of the environment around us is also important. So as individuals, we must understand the role we play as custodians of this land, and to understand that our health creates the health of the planet around us also to a large extent. So the health of the world begins from us in many ways. Our current understanding of health comes from a modern medical point of view to a large extent. And while this view is also adapting to change in understanding regarding the human body, regarding the human mind, it is safe to say that in its current state and design, drawing a holistic map of well-being is highly challenging in this system. Modern medical science has advanced us to great lengths. It has brought us increased longevity. It has brought us relief from a lot of painful symptoms. But in the picture of health, when there are only a few pieces that are out of balance, for example, acute symptoms of a disease, modern medical system finds expert solutions. Recovery is faster, protocols are safer, there is more precision, reliability, and so on. And we know and we must applaud all of these advances. But we must also accept that the answer lies elsewhere when we begin to look at the organism as a whole. It is important to address all the different areas of well-being that the organism has and ultimately integrate them to form a complete picture. Now again, speakers before me have mentioned this in many different ways, and so to validate this through that is very heartening. Now, how can we conceptualize this roadmap, right? So how do we approach health? The conclave is on approaches to holistic health, and there are many ways to do so. There is no one method, and if someone is telling you that this is the only way, then just run far away. But there are many ways to conceptualize this, right? And practically approach health holistically. From a framework that moves from, say, external to internal, from the obvious manifestations of the body to the mind, to maybe more unbounded feelings. That is one way to approach it. The Panchakosha system is an example. We can also approach it hierarchically, vertically. We've had presentations on that. Even within the yoga system, it can be conceptualized vertically, hierarchically. From one quality A, there is a quality B that emerges, and so on. Polyvagal theory is one of the examples of this hierarchical system. My teachers have given us this Swastha map. This is designed in a landscape layout, right? So it lays out different qualities and functions in groups that are spread out and connected like areas in a landscape or nodes. And the beauty of this map is that it avoids overlap. It offers pathways whereby we can work on each of these different domains to achieve a holistic picture of well-being, right? After all, being physically fit does not presuppose good quality of sleep or stable relationships. Having positive emotions does not mean that I have a good relationship with food, with nourishment. while all of these are related and some functions in one area can affect other functions in a different area, one is not a substitute for other. It is an important point to remember that you cannot just work on one area of yourself and think that you are in a state of well-being. A holistic view is where you are approaching all of these different areas and then ultimately integrating them. I want to be able to move well. I want to be able to breathe well. I want to be able to sleep well. I want to be able to nourish myself well. I want to have good relationships with people in my life. But say, for example, I have a challenge with consistency and commitment. I cannot practice anything consistently, and I have an issue with committing to any process that I am working on. I may find that this issue of consistency and imbalance showing up in different domains in different ways. My movement may be unsteady, my breath may be shallow, oftentimes very unsteady also. Poor eating habits, poor sleep habits, poor routine, poor relationships. So in this way, if I start to develop a quality, a skill of stability, starting say in one domain, wherever I find it is easy for me to start, I start developing this quality of stability. I am stable in my movement. I am stable in my breath. I am stable in the way that I approach food. I have clarity in my thoughts. I have stability in my relationships. So I look at it from a skills point of view, and I develop all of these domains with the skill of stability. And ultimately, I try to form a stable radhika, a stable organism altogether, right? After having worked on all of these different domains. And within the domains, the individual is equipped with different skills. So we can see this, for example. If we look at just the movement domain, I can work on all of these different things, and this is not an exhaustive list, of course. I can work on all of these different things, and then the opposites are true when there is imbalance. And I can find that I am working with them in different areas also. Now I want to go back. Same thing I can practice with my words, with my breathing, with my relationships. So I can use all of these different coordination, response in different domains as well. Now this is specific to the movement domain. Other domains have different list of skills, but there are a lot of them are interrelated. Swastha, after all, see the word itself, swastha, the Sanskrit word, means to be yourself. It succinctly describes the idea of health itself. What does it mean now, to be yourself? Simply put, it is to be yourself, to be established in oneself, and that is a deeper discussion. But simply put, it means to be yourself. And what does it mean to be yourself? If someone asks you that, what does it mean to be yourself? It means to be your body. It means to be your mind. It means to be your senses. It also means your breath. It also means your feelings. It also means your relationship, your sleep, the type of awareness you have, and so on. It means to have an integrated experience of all these different areas of you. That is to be yourself. And how can we call this healthy? When is this experience, then this integrated experience, healthy? When there is good function and vitality. When there is good function and vitality in the mind, in the body, in the senses, in the connection to the world, right? It is when there is stability in different qualities and functions of this balanced organism in an overall unified state, which is the bhava, the isness. What is? The bhava is where you are experiencing these patterns, these functions, these qualities in a habitual state of well-being. That is what can be described as well-being, and not just health. Health and well-being. It is more of a habitual state, the isness of it. Now, yoga and Ayurveda offer tools to create this balance, fundamentally resting on the holistic view of the body and mind being integrated. And the map that I presented earlier, the Swastha map, stands on the shoulders of these giants and offers tools that are relevant to us in our modern day life. At the foundation of this approach is habit and change. Habit and change is our capacity to navigate our change in habits by finding the right goals, by finding motivations that are supportive at the right time, establishing structures and plans, small steps, and many different planned things around it. It is not just something that is up in the air, today I decide I want my life to be different and tomorrow I'm going to be different. It is a process. It requires planning, it requires some understanding of what is. And this type of approach is then very empowering. It gives the individual a set of skills, and it is not a one-size-fits-all model. It is not a linear method that you do this and you will achieve this. It is a wheel that you are establishing yourself. So, health anyways is not a one-size-fits-all model like most things. And we know now that the human organism is very complex, countless properties, different functions, infinite opportunities for change. Ravindra sir had mentioned an important point about plasticity, right? We can think of it here as well. The organism is rewired. Okay, when we are talking about habit and change, the organism is rewired by the functions it performs. So you think of yourself and you think of the way in which changes have occurred within you. What are some things that you have experienced that have caused that change? There is a sort of rewiring that is happening when there is a function performed or a state experienced, and it retains these patterns. It retains these functions and qualities. This is what makes change and growth possible over time. Every level of us is retaining these functions, these patterns that we are exposed to. And then we become habituated. We become attuned to these states and functions. Thus, a natural state of balance of qualities and functions can then begin to shift gradually. So, which either points to health or ill health. For example, negatively speaking, we can say alcohol dependence. Taking a very loose example, alcohol dependence. Or positively speaking, we can talk about strength development with weightlifters. Right? When in balance, these are good things. When in imbalance, these are bad things. So what you practice, you become better at. So ask yourself this question: what am I practicing? Am I practicing health or am I practicing ill health? What are some things that I am doing that are causing this shift in my natural state, which is ultimately bringing me towards health and a feeling of well-being, or which is taking me away from it, right? But when it comes to human health and changes sought, the role of jidnyasa, the desire, the intrinsic motivation, is often overlooked. I have a 5-year-old nephew at home, and his parents want him to be involved in sports, want him to be involved in activities that are good for him physically speaking. So they took him to tennis classes. For about a month he was crying, he doesn't want to go, he's like, not happening. They took him to skating classes, not going on, not working for him. They put him for swimming classes, and he's found his place. He is very happy to perform that activity. He is at ease when he is practicing that. He has found inherent value for it, whatever it be. It is not that he is going to become a sportsman in the future. It is that he enjoys it. He enjoys that process, and now when he goes there, he is happy doing it. So the desire or the intrinsic motivation to cause change in our hyper-stimulated world, in our very over-animated world that we have created for ourselves, should be handled very, very craftily. It cannot be something that is forced, or cannot be something that makes the person avoid any kind of healthful activities. The popular dialogue around health currently in our society, in India or abroad, is one that models reward and punishment for motivation or lack thereof, right? So while this may be an important first step to ensure sustainability of change, there's no point disregarding it completely. It is important that there is some external motivation being given. It is necessary to integrate new behaviors into our internal values. Research has shown that in humans, reward or punishment have a very tricky relationship. It is a very complicated relationship. We do not necessarily internalize motivation based on rewards, definitely not punishment. In fact, they can backfire because we are less likely to choose those behaviors because we do not find there is ownership on them. We find that someone else is telling me to do something, so I will do it. And there is no sustainability of that action over time. Similarly, research also suggests that, like other mammals, humans are hardwired for purpose seeking. We seek purpose in the activities that we have, like earlier on foraging, exploratory activities, which is when our learning mechanisms develop. And when these learning mechanisms develop, we become skilled at survival, ultimately. Now, in our scenario, it is a different thing, but at the basic level, it's been survival. When we are looking at a holistic health approach, it should cater to these ideas, this purpose seeking, this aversion to reward and punishment, in the way that it is practically applied. In any kind of transformative process, active participation of the individual is key. A health approach, a holistic health approach should fuel this active participation rather than stifle it. And this can be achieved through instilling Shraddha, which is a rational conviction that this path is beneficial to them. This is pivotal to the success and sustainability of well-being. Dr. Sankhe had mentioned a case where the person had said, I cannot do this anymore. It is not possible for me to do this anymore. There was no faith in that process. So the response to that process very likely would have been negative. When there was a change in that idea, when there was a change in the protocol, you saw that there was more hope in what was happening and then ultimately leading to recovery. If there is acceptance of the idea that in my current state, I am lacking in some aspects of my overall health and well-being, then I must try to change this for the positive. Along the way, there will be some resistance. But when there is an understanding of this, when this outlook is encouraged, there is a stronger commitment and readiness on the part of the individual to withstand that resistance and discomfort. This resistance and discomfort is always going to be there when we are instituting any kind of change. But when there is an understanding that I can withstand this, the concept of tapas, when there is faith, when there is shraddha, there is a natural virya, there is courage to go forward and face this resistance. Yoga and Ayurveda, Yoga Sutra will expound this very clearly. This narrative where there is Shraddha, where there is Virya, where there is recall, there is practice, where there is new insight, there is Prajna gotten from this process. This is a very enabling narrative for self-regulation. This respects the autonomy of the individual. It respects the agency of the individual. And one important skill, which I will repeat now here, is of pratyaveksha, what again Dr. Ravindra has mentioned, to be able to look at yourself, to be able to watch over yourself comprehensively. Body, breath, thoughts, emotions, actions, speech. This is also very crucial in improving this self-efficacy, responsible decision making. And it further fuels this jidnyasa. When there is curiosity at the heart of this observation, when there is questions being asked by yourself with an attitude of curiosity and exploration, this positive wheel can be kept running. Reliable knowledge, receiving reliable knowledge is of course key to strengthen this faith, and the shraddha, which then ultimately affirms that jidnyasa. So that positive wheel of change can be kept running in a very systematic manner with curiosity at its heart, rather than any kind of intensity, because the boundaries of this change are set up by you. You are yourself tailoring the process for yourself by asking questions, by learning about the process, by learning about the change. And feelings of judgment or guilt can then be removed from this process totally. If I don't do something, then I am a bad person, or I don't deserve anything like this. This thought process, this reward-punishment thought process can be totally eliminated when you look at it from a curiosity perspective. Encouraging an attitude of playfulness, not taking setbacks too seriously, and finding process in the rewards in the process itself. So let the process be the result. So in this way, when the individual can identify themselves, the spheres of control that they have, we have as individuals a few spheres of control that we can exercise change in. And in this way, when we identify this, when we develop the skills within those spheres, and do this with curiosity rather than intensity, with sincerity rather than some grave seriousness, then a picture of well-being can begin to be created. With this, I close my presentation, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am, for such nice, insightful talk. It's really thought-provoking that it's time to cultivate curiosity and embrace the personalized healthcare. It's really needed now. Thank you so much. So I would request only one question. Okay. Okay, thank you. So thank you so much, ma'am. So it's time to honor. I would request Professor Hitesh Srimali, Dean Students, IIT Mandi, to kindly come onto the stage and honor our esteemed guest, Mrs. Radhika Valerao. Thank you so much, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, so we'll move on to the next talk. So, next talk is by Dr. Rasmi Mathur. So, I would like to welcome Dr. Rasmi Mathur. She is the Chief Operating Officer of Freedom for Diabetes, who brings her expertise in translating strategy into actionable steps for growth, overseeing goal setting, performance management, and operations planning. Dr. Mathur has several years of experience as an able and experienced entrepreneur with a background in physical therapy and human resource management. She is going to talk on transforming healthcare, harnessing the power of digitization for holistic healthcare management. So, ma'am, it's your time.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And I would like to thank IIT Mandi to give me this opportunity to share the stage with such amazing speakers and experts in their own in their field. It actually enables me to understand there are so many aspects that are pivotal in holistic health. Today I would like to speak upon how holistic health can be enabled to the masses through digitalization. Okay, so I have a question for everyone. How many of you are looking at, what do you prefer, a long lifespan? Can you show with your hands how many of you are more favoring a longer lifespan? Okay, 2 of them. What about a healthy lifespan? Now if I say, how many of you prefer a healthy long lifespan? That's maximum of you, right? We are looking to have a very, very healthy and independent life for ourselves, for our future generation, and to make sure that we go through every life experience that our lifespan has to offer. So we have seen that in surveys, people are looking at the quality of life over, few of them look at quality of life over longevity, but their post-COVID, what we have seen is humans are looking to strive that right balance between the longevity and quality of life. They are ready to make that change in their lifestyle. They are willing to seek preventive care, engage in holistic practice, so that that balance can be seen and they can experience all the joys of life. This is a short, you can say, a survey that was done, that in the year 1881, we can see that due to disease and the healthcare service that was available over that time, 25 years was the life expectancy. But as we move forward in the year 2021, the average life expectancy of an Indian individual is 68 years. Seems good, but let's see what happens in the future. As in the next 70 years, we are expecting a life expectancy of 87 years. And this is all possible with the advancement in the healthcare system. The real question comes in, what about the age of productivity that you will have with the longer lifespan? In 1900s, you see 58 was the lifespan expectancy and 8 years of disability. It could be both mental and physical disability. As we move, we see that it goes to 10 years, and in the next 70 years, we are expecting a 14 years of disability. Both it might be a mental or a physical disability. That means though you are looking at a longer lifespan, the disability lives also increases. Why is that? So what we have observed in the past 10 years is metabolic disorders such as diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, or renal problems start as early as the age of 30 due to the lifestyle that we are currently living with, high stressors with the food, the fast food coming in, all the stressors that they are going through. And this onset of early complications has led to decreased or compromised quality of life. There will be an increase in the number of years, I do agree, but there will also be an increase in the disability in those livable years. So what should we do? All of us were thinking, "Arey, ab hum kya kare?" So what should we do? It's very simple. Eat right, do your exercises, manage your stress. When diagnosed, get yourself checked, do your changes. Make holistic changes, don't put out fires one at a time. Seems easy, but let me tell you, it's not. You have to go visit a dietitian to get your right food. You have to go to the gym, or the therapist, or the gym for your exercises. Watch YouTube videos, yoga, Zumba. There are a lot of videos available. Do some meditation or meet a counselor. Or change the way you have been living your majority of life. Now it doesn't seem easy. You need guidance. So what stops it is lack of time. We have to visit so many people. Too many experts to visit, financial acceptance, I have to make that change. Human inertia is the biggest roadblock for change. Financial aspect, lack of awareness that holistic approach will help in changing the overall health and well-being of a person and lack of motivation. मुझे ही हुआ है और किसी को नहीं हुआ. Do I really have to? What I have to do? And all those confusions comes in. That's where post-COVID era we have seen a digitalization in healthcare. That is, we have seen that all these facilities or the approach for healthcare is available at the doorstep. So it has been a disruptive change that has happened post-COVID era, where health and wellness is delivered at your doorstep through a lot of digital interventions such as health and telemedicine, wellness apps. All of us must be wearing a fitness app. Then with electronic health records, with such an advancement in technology, all the records are now available online for a lot of experts to access it at the same time and give a better comprehensive patient data and deliver holistic and integrated approach. It also helps in understanding the data that we have. It helps in understanding what kind of trends are we seeing in the patients with a specific genre of lifestyle disorders, or what interventions have given what kind of results to these lifestyle disorders. Then we have seen a lot of educational material available online for webinars, podcast, then courses are available. The data analytics have been a leveraging point for all the healthcare providers right now, which helps in identifying the risk factors. It has tailored, personalized plan approaches for target intervention and optimizing treatment. Now all this is available, but how do we get it to the patient, to the person who is really in need of this? So a very important or advancement that we have seen is remote monitoring and home healthcare, where you have a maximum of the patients whom we see do have a BP machine at home, a glucose SpO2 machine. The oximeter sales had boomed during the time of COVID, because that was one of the important things that really helped the patients. Now, the integration of all these technology that has been seen booming during the digitalization era of healthcare. But for me as a patient, what do I need? I need it at one place. I need them to guide me. I need them to tell me what is good for me. What is good for me what my case will help me get better or get a holistic approach. So I would take a short case study of the organization that I have been working with, is Freedom from Diabetes, where we leverage the digitalization for diabetes reversal and remission management through holistic transformation. Lifestyle disorders doesn't have a single causative factor. It is a multifactorial causes that happen that plays an important role for lifestyle disorders. So there's an intervention from the diet, from exercise, psychology, or inner transformation as we call it, and medical science. What do we do in that is we give them correct information, what is right for you. See, if we are giving you a path, okay, you have to walk through this path, but at one point we have to leave your hand and let you free, so that you can live your further life with a very, you can say, a mindful approach towards your health. And that is what we do. By correct education, we make you wiser in all the 4 aspects. What kind of food is good for your condition? You make the decision, we'll educate you. What kind of exercise is needed? If you have cheated, if you have gone out, had some food which is not good for you. But you need to enjoy those life experiences, right? So how you can have a right mindfulness towards your food, your exercise. If you have gone through some stresses, some life events, we can't say that life events won't happen. There will be a lot of life events. And how do you manage those life events? By making sure that your stresses are in place. And of course, at a medical science, from a medical perspective, which is not only traditional medicine, but also all the supportive medicines that we suggest. Now, this is done in a very systematic, phase-wise manner, where for the first 3 months, we know that a participant or a patient coming to us will be in trouble. They've already tried everything and they are looking for an answers. What is good for me? Is this going to help me? And hence a lot of data that we carry, we look at the patterns, we look at their overall mental health. It is believed that primary lifestyle disorder has a great impact on their mental health. So we do a mental health analysis of the participant. We do an optimism analysis of the participant. We have a bodily function test that we do for our participants who have come in. And this gives us a comprehensive view as to what is the overall condition of the participant holistically. And then we move forward by giving them their personalized plan. Now the next question, or mostly which I get, is plan to de diya, but what next? Do they really adhere to it? That is the biggest question that I get for an online support, and this is all happening online. Let me tell you, we have a center in Pune, but we have participants all across the globe. We have participants from US, we have participants from different cities in India. Now how does that work? This is where we have been leveraging digitalization. We give them a very interactive application which has all the local notifications, adherence form, and we keep bombarding what they have to do, what is right for them, what has been prescribed to them. This helps in reducing their inertia and increasing their adoption to the approach that we want them to follow. Once they have stabilized their basic goals, that is their so humans are very result oriented. We need to see results. क्या change आया? Holistic health care क्या change आया? Is my BSL in place? Is my HbA1c in place? That at a physical aspect of it. Is my mental health better? So they are very result oriented, and that is why the first part is where we tell them that okay, now if you have followed this, or this is what holistically we have managed, your levels are in place. Second part of the program, or holistically how we manage, is we empower them. You take a decision. You know your parameters, you know your body, you know your mental health right now. You have made a significant change. How are you going to take a decision on all these 4 aspects? So that is where the second part of the program is. And here we use a lot of interventions from psychological and counseling perspective. We have guided meditations, motivational meditations for the participant. We custom prescribe it to them, where a high BMI, like a 35 above BMI participant, will have a different kind of a diet, which is restrictive in nature, and immediately in the first 3 months, they will say, no, it's not possible. This is a big change. But how we have to motivate them? What are the deep-rooted causes? Why they're not adhering to it? So those kind of checks are done, counselings are done, their root cause of their inertia has been taken into consideration, and they are given their custom plan. So we give them an interactive app. On an average, we have, at any given point of time, we have 10,000 participants live on that application, and they update their daily vitals, that is their physical parameters, their BSL levels, their weight, then their daily activities, their physical activities. If they've done journaling, we encourage meditation. We have something called as an emotion map. What emotions have you faced today? So they can retrospect at the end of the week, I have gone through this emotion, what had triggered those emotions, and they can make those corrective changes. And this is all through the education that we give to them. We have a very Netflix interactive learning portal available on the application, so that they know what to approach. See, I can guide you on a road, but you have to decide your journey, is what our approach is. Then, when a participant is joining in the digital era, they feel very siloed, that okay, I am the one, this is happening to me, or this only I am doing. For that, what we did was we brought in group therapy. So we have around 12 sessions that happen every month across their program, where it's a highly interactive program where our experts, they speak with the participant and guide them that for the next month, what decisions you need to take, what protocols you need to follow. Then constant inspiration, of course. With all this going on, they are taking care of themselves. They are bound to be demotivated at some point of time, and plateaus come in when life events happen. So we have a community of 14,000 participants who are actually our mentors, and it is also a part of our program that gratification. If you have benefited, you have to make sure someone else also changes their life. So these are available to, to share their journey, their experiences. Now this is all happening at the front end for the participants. Everything seems rosy, but at the back end we have more than 250 employees, which includes medical doctors, dietitians, physiotherapists, counselors, and of course the operational members. And they look at all the data that is coming in. So this is how digitalization has helped. We have a very customized backend where the experts are enabled with the data that is coming in. So if the BSL is high, it will come on top of their application and their system, which helps us give a better and optimal solutions to the participant. And of course, all our backend is now getting prepped for AI enablement. We are looking at the data of a lot of more than 50,000 participants in our program to look at the patterns of treatment that has been helping, the adherence, the triggers that were helping them in approaching a holistic life. Even once they have completed, what kind of adjustments they have been doing, what are they following the regime given to them, is being taken care or not. So these are some of the numbers. We have 14,000 plus people who are free from medicine, insulin, or both. Glucose tolerance test is a test done for, we have a very big, you can say, Utsav called as Muktotsav, where we see these participants who have passed their glucose tolerance test. And this is all possible because they have not only taken care of their physical parameters, but also their stressors. Their root cause have been identified. This is a participant, she's from USA, 25 years of diabetes. Now, my purpose to show this was that even sitting at USA, she was able to reverse her diabetes or stop her insulin, and her HbA1cs were brought in level because of digitalization, because of the digital tools she has been using that we had offered. Same now, at the age of 48, Mr. Purohit is an avid cyclist. He has traveled, I think, more than 2,500 kilometers on his cycle. It's his athletic identity, a concept very close to us. We have seen that with the use of digitalization for holistic management, we have seen almost 1.2% reduction in the HbA1c level. A very in-house study was done where we had seen that 85% of participants enrolling in the program had seen an increased knowledge in self-management, which is the key for holistic health management. We can give them n number of ways, but they need to manage it themselves at the end of the day. Then 46.8% participants had improved overall quality of life through the various interventions that we have offered. To conclude, I would say that the holistic health management is the need of the hour. It holds immense potential. It enhances the accessibility and the patient there's an improved patient outcomes. Emerging trends that we will see in the future is the AI technology, blockchain technology for data security, virtual reality. So I'll share a small thing. We had a project where meditation is a very we can say a very good process, which requires a very secular, or we can say a very quiet environment, which is not possible in this era. You have to go to a vacation and get that, that kind of calm. So what we were planning, we had a project coming up with a very good organization to give them virtual reality, that virtual feel of that calmness with the AI with the UI that we were building, so they can hear some sound of birds, some waterfall, which will give them, in turn, give them a very good result for the meditation that they have been doing. So we have to get ready with technology. Holistic health is the way, and digitalization is the path for its implementation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So it's really insightful to see your talk reflecting on how digital health technologies really transform personalized healthcare. So it's the age of digits, so it's really important. Thank you so much. So now I would request Professor Arnab Bhavsar to kindly come up on the stage and felicitate Dr. Rashmi Mathur. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, again. So there is a slight change in plan. Instead of the panel discussions, we'll now be having short talks by the dignitaries present here. So I would like to invite Dr. Vikrant Kanwar, DMS AIMS Bilaspur, for an illuminating short talk. Sir, could you please come?
Thank you. I'm really grateful to IIT Mandi, particularly Professor Behra and Dr. Varun and his team to invite me for this talk. Actually, I'm going to just summarize what we heard today. They say that more and more you learn, the less you learn, you come to know that how less you know. So this is what happened with me today when we heard from all the eminent speakers here of different specialties. And there is another proverb that in all chaos there is an order. So now I'm basically from the health policy background, so I want to answer the questions which were raised during the discussion. I'm still very well clear about the health and wellness actually. Pardon my ignorance in that. As per the definition of health, according to WHO, it's the complete state of physical, mental, social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. But what I understood about the wellness, it is the action taken to achieve the health state to explore the highest human potential. So I think this is most important part, that we should explore the highest level of human potential. How we can do that? I think Dr. Ravindra has said about the mind, and the scientific side of that was the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. I think that is the main, in simple terminology if I say, that is the main chemical locha happening with our mind actually. That is the only thing which make us vulnerable to the diseases actually. So what I believe that the further research should be exploring the mind. The day before yesterday, I was hearing the talk of Professor Behra. He said that when we assess the mind, body, and soul in unison, then we can know the consciousness state of a human being. And that consciousness leads to the exploring the highest potential of a person. So I want to propose that why we are not taking the integration of all the systems in our health system, because that integration will help us to make the people more healthy. But for that, what we need on policy framework, what we need the specific disease protocols or SOPs by conglomerating all these sciences. And then we can assess that what is the outcome of that. I think we are doing it in silos. Madam Jasundar, she has immense experience at AIMS. They are doing it in silos, but now the time has come that we should do it on a collaborative way and assess the outcome of the diseases. Like, this is very common practice that, being a allopathic doctor, I can say that when we write on diabetes mellitus, that lifestyle changes. The person from a village, he don't know what is lifestyle changes. We have to explain them. And when we integrate all the specialties, all the subspecialties, or I can say the science of well-being into one, then only we can achieve the target of make person residing at last mile healthy. So I think there is a need of evidence-based research in these areas, and there should be a technology or tools to assess the level of consciousness, level of these Vat, Pitta, and the VPN model which Madam has explained. And there should be, we can explore the non-invasive way of assessing the cortisol level or DHEA level. These may be the future thoughts for it. By doing this, we can achieve the positive health. And as we have done with the yoga 9 years back, when we make it, when the Prime Minister of India, he proposed it at the highest international fora, now it becomes a reality. Now I believe that if we take integrative medicine as whole and make a community movement in this country, then only the time will come if we propose this as a WHO agenda, and then WHO will definitely accept it. This part of the which we were discussing, and some of the participants, they raised this question. I think I have given time for short talk. It's an immense opportunity at the G20 platform to give these fresh thoughts to build this nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Tulika Srivastav, Associate Dean, International Relations, IIT Mandi, to honor Dr. Vikrant Kanwar. Ma'am, could you please come? Thank you, sir. So now next we'd like to invite Mr. Vishwas Phatak, yoga expert and guest faculty, IIT Mandi, for his enlightening short talk.
Namo Namaha. यदि सभी को सुविधा रहेगी तो मैं हिंदी में बोलना पसंद करूँगा, यदि नहीं है तो अंग्रेज़ी भी बोल सकता हूँ, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं, बोल सकता हूँ हिंदी में। हाँ ठीक है, धन्यवाद धन्यवाद। तो हमारा आज का विषय यह है कि हमारे आरोग्य और अपनी जो सामाजिक उसका स्वीकार है, आरोग्य की हमारी जो भिन्न भिन्न प्रकार के विधि विधान है, डूज एंड डोंट्स है, उसको समाज में कैसे स्वीकार करने के लिए हमें प्रेरित कैसे किया जाना चाहिए। तो मैं ऐसे मानता हूँ कि हमारे आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमारे भारत को आत्मनिर्भर भारत करने की एक मुहिम चलाई है। वैसे हमें अपने आप को आत्मनिर्भर स्वास्थ्य की मुहिम को जोड़ना चाहिए, तभी हम ऐसे कर सकते हैं कि हम सभी भारतवासियों को एक स्वास्थ्य और एक आत्मसंतोष की भावना में जगा सकते हैं। हमारे प्राचीन भारतीय जो लोग थे उनमें ऐसी स्थिति थी कि हमारा जो स्वास्थ्य था उसकी व्यवस्था पूर्ण रूप से निःशुल्क थी। भारत में ये कभी स्वास्थ्य की व्यवस्था का शुल्क नहीं लिया जाता था। इसके कारण क्या था कि एक ग्राम में पहले जो ग्राम वैद्य होते थे वो सभी को अपने स्वास्थ्य कैसे रखना है उसकी जानकारी दिया करते थे, और दादी माँ अपने बटुए में कुछ ना कुछ ऐसे रखती थी जिससे घर में ही सब स्वास्थ्य की समस्याओं का समाधान होता था। ये बात है दादी माँ के नुस्खे। उसके बाद में ग्राम वैद्य है, ग्राम वैद्य को भी नहीं आया तो उसको पंचक्रोशी वैद्य होता था, पंचक्रोशी वैद्य को भी नहीं आया तो राज वैद्य होते थे। ये ऐसा हमारा निःशुल्क स्वास्थ्य की सेवा का स्तर था। यही आदर्श और आज से अच्छी व्यवस्था है ऐसे मैं मानता हूँ, किंतु हम ऐसे भी नहीं कर सकते कि उसी व्यवस्था की ओर जाना हमें संभव नहीं होता है, तो हमें कोई कहीं ना कहीं स्वर्ण मध्य को हमें लेना पड़ेगा। तो ये जो हमारी व्यवस्था है तो उसके लिए समय को देखते हुए मैं बहुत ही संक्षेप में बताऊंगा कि हमें अपने जीवन में आयुर्वेद क्या बोलते हैं कि हिताहितम सुखम दुखम आयुस्तस्य हिताहितम मानम च तच्च यत्रोक्तम आयुर्वेदस्य उच्यते, यानी कि जो भी स्वास्थ्य के लिए उपयुक्त है वो जहाँ भी बताया जाएगा वो आयुर्वेद का ही अंग माना जाता है। तो इस प्रकार से आयुर्वेद क्या है कि धर्मार्थ, जो कि आयुष कामाय मानेन धर्मार्थ सुख साधनम आयुर्वेद उपदेशेषु कर्तव्य परमादरः, यानी कि हमें क्या करना चाहिए, जो आयुर्वेद के उपदेश है उनके ऊपर पूर्ण रूप से उनका स्वीकार करके आदर करना चाहिए, तभी हमारे जीवन में स्वास्थ्य आएगा और संतोष की स्थिति आएगी, कल्याण की दिशा में हम अग्रसर हो पाएंगे। तो ये है, तो उसका मैं बहुत ही संक्षेप में, क्योंकि हमारा जो अंधानुकरण, पाश्चात्य जीवनचर्या का जो अंधानुकरण चल रहा है हमारे देश में कई सालों से चल रहा है, क्योंकि पाश्चात्य देश का जलवायु तो यहाँ आ नहीं सकता है, वहाँ की जो जीवनचर्या होती है वो जीवनचर्या उसके अनुसार होती है। उसका एक मैं संक्षेप में उदाहरण देकर आगे चलता हूँ कि वहाँ रात का खाना खाने के पश्चात आइसक्रीम खाया जाता है। आइसक्रीम खाया जाता है इसलिए खाया जाता है कि वहाँ उनका जो अग्नि होता है ना वो इतना अधिक होता है, क्योंकि 15 से नीचे ही उनका तापमान रहता है, तो अग्नि इतना होता है कि खाना खाने के पश्चात भी उनको कुछ खाना चाहिए, किंतु उतना खाना पचाया नहीं जा सकेगा और उनका दिन खराब हो जाएगा। इसके लिए उनको आइसक्रीम खाना पड़ता है, किंतु यहाँ यदि हम खाना खाने के पश्चात आइसक्रीम खाएंगे तो हमारा पाचन बिगड़ जाएगा और इस भारतवर्ष में हम हमारे स्वास्थ्य को ठीक नहीं रख पाएंगे। तो हम प्रारंभ से शुरुआत करते हैं कि जब हम ब्राह्म मुहूर्ते न उत्तिष्ठ, मेरा इस बहुत सारे प्रश्न है सर रविंद्र सर से, किंतु एक जो ब्राह्म मुहूर्ते न उत्तिष्ठ जो है, जो कि सिंपैथेटिक टोन आ जाता है, यदि नहीं हम ब्राह्म मुहूर्त में उत्तिष्ठ होते हैं, नहीं जागरण करते हैं, तो सिंपैथेटिक टोन से हम त्रस्त हो जाते हैं। इसके लिए ब्राह्म मुहूर्त का महत्व बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। और कैसे जागना है, तो रात को जल्दी सोना चाहिए और सूर्यास्त के पश्चात एक मुहूर्त, एक जो प्रहर होता है तब हमें सोना चाहिए और ब्राह्म मुहूर्त को जागना चाहिए। और उसके पश्चात क्या करना चाहिए, उषपान करना चाहिए। उषपान पानी पीने की सुविधा, यानी कि आजकल ये जो विधि होती है वो पानी पीने की विधि बहुत ही गलत हो गया है। बोतल लगा लगा कर गटागट पानी पीते हैं, उससे वात बढ़ता है, स्वास्थ्य की कई सारी समस्याएं हैं। तो हाउ टू लिव स्कूल्स की आवश्यकता है। हम उसके पश्चात क्या करते हैं, डिफिसेशन। आजकल का कमोड आ गया है, तो हमारा कमोड से इतनी समस्याएं होती है, किसी को कोई पता ही नहीं। एक फैशन के चलते कमोड सब जगह चला गया। तो हमें स्वर्ण मध्य करना चाहिए, कैसे वहाँ पर भी हमें उकड़ू बैठ कर करने से हमें लाभ होगा। तो अभी क्या है, बहुत ज़्यादा बोला नहीं जा सकता, 5 मिनट पूरे होने को है। मैं इतना ही कहता हूँ कि अयम निज परो वेत्ति गणना लघु चेतसाम उदार चरितानाम तु वसुधैव कुटुंबकम। आय से इलनेस शुरू होती है और विश से वेलनेस शुरू होता है। तो इसके लिए हमें विश से शुरुआत करनी चाहिए। धन्यवाद। नमो नमः।
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful talk. Now we would like to request Shri AVM Pranay Sinha ji to honor Mr. Vishwas Phatak. Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Dr. Dhaval Dalal, Core Group Member and HOD, General Medicine, Bhakti Vedanta Hospital and Research Institute, for sharing his knowledge in the form of a short talk with us. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Dr. Balera, and all the invitees for having me here. Straight to the topic. The mood is now changing towards integration. I appreciate what you said. Integration would be a beautiful way to think of it forward, where we combine the goodness of Ayurveda, of various pathies together in one, giving the healthcare worker more tools in his hand so that he can function better. At Bhaktivedanta, we have had a system of assessment in the team which I lead in the Integrative Medicine Department. 7 S's: assessment, stress, sleep, substance abuse, schedules, sedentary lifestyles, spicy foods, and spirituality. This gives me a model whereby by assessing the 7 factors, I get to know what is the net lifestyle of a particular person. That's number 1. Number 2, we assess how do all these affect the person. ICMR 7 June said that now we have 10 million diabetic patients in our country, 44% rise in the last 4 years. So we are having an epidemic, COVID has gone away, epidemic of NCDs. All NCDs have a common pathology. What is that? That is inflammation. So at our hospital, we focus on systems to assess inflammation. Autoimmune diseases, inflammation. Cardiovascular disease, inflammation. Pancreatitis, diabetes, inflammation. Everything ultimately is inflammatory diseases. It's just low-grade systemic inflammation assessed by CRP, ASR, tumor necrosis factor, IL-6 levels, etc. We assess these in a very comprehensive way, so we get a model as to what type of inflammation the patient is suffering from. Number 3, we devise a diet whereby we have found that in the assessment systems what went really wrong. So we address all those things. For example, just to give an example, we found that a great benefit can come from, for example, one example I'll just give you in 5 minutes, is pomegranate. Pomegranate is used as a balancer of all the doshas. Pomegranate is very powerful anti-inflammatory. Pomegranate is anti-aging. Pomegranate is antioxidant. We found that pomegranate has fantastic properties. So this is more like bringing all the science which we heard today into like, the actionables. All our cardiovascular patients are on millets now because we found that millets are actually reduce inflammation in the body and therefore the anti-atherogenic in nature. The role of exercise cannot be underestimated. We found that exercise is important. WHO recommends 10,000 steps per day for diabetics, so it is stressed. So what we have done is we have kept all our patients in a research model, right, where they assessed before intervention, after intervention. For example, in CVD analysis, we have put patients to go through a CT angiography and calcium scoring analysis along with inflammatory markers. 6 months of therapy based on various supplements, yoga, and spirituality, etc. And then once that is done, 6 months later, again, this is assessed. So as Dr. suggested, we are doing that. We really think so that the future of integrated medicine, and I want to request Dr. Balerao to expand your dream for Ayurvedic hospital into an integrated hospital. that would be something where we can use the best of all that we have, right? Because there is a lot of goodness in conventional medicine, there is a lot of goodness in every medicine, but we can put all that into a package which is more acceptable to all of us, and we can really bring this dream of good health, happiness as a reality. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful talk. Next, we request our director, sir, Professor Lakshmidhar Behra, to honor Dr. Dhaval Dalal.
I want to correct the, what is your name? Ritu. I want to correct her that we have not cancelled our panel discussion. This will happen at 3 o'clock. But this will happen in a smaller group. All our experts, the ICAS faculty members and ICAS researchers, all will be there in the our guest house conference room. So at 3 o'clock we are going to meet, because a program is not complete unless we encash why we met here, and that has not happened because of the delay in the time. Time management is always very tough to manage. So just to correct that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Dr. Pooja Gupta, Assistant Professor, University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, Dehradun, for delivering a short enlightening talk.
Thank you so much, and I would like to first of all thank the great leadership and the team, and most importantly the students of this IIT Mandi for organizing such a great series of events. And since morning I have been listening to all the renowned and experts talking about holistic well-being, and that has been an enlightening journey for me so far. Coming from academia, I would like to present my study in short. I'd like to summarize what I was supposed to present. But so when we talk about, when we listen this word holistic well-being, that is inclusive in nature, not only happening only at physical, mental, emotional, or at societal level. That includes also well-being at spiritual level, where we are taking care of not only ourselves but also the people around us. With the implementation of NEP 2020, and there came the shift in the curriculum, where we come up with a lot of courses on life skills that also included the courses like critical thinking, decision making, and also the courses like mind-body wellness. But the big question that I faced when I was interacting with the students was like, why such courses, and what is the need of such courses, and especially when it comes to Indian knowledge system, the yoga, meditation, and consciousness studies. So why, I face such questions. So the answer lies here, like this this internal system and yoga and meditation not only just solves the problems for us at physical level, it also makes us more compassionate. It makes us more inclusive in nature, where we are taking care of ourselves, our society, environment, and everyone around us on the planet. So with these words, I would like to pause. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We now request Professor Varun Dutt, Chair, Ikshima Center, to kindly felicitate Dr. Pooja Gupta. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Now we would like to invite Dr. Arnav Bhavsar, Associate Professor and Coordinator of Holistic Health Conclave G20 event, to deliver the closing remarks and vote of thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and participants, we have come to the conclusion of this very enlightening conclave on exploring holistic approaches to health and well-being. As we conclude this event, it's my honor to propose the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to extend extreme gratitude to our Honorable Director, Professor Lakshmidhar Behera, and Honorable Chairperson BOG IIT Mandi, Professor Prem Vath, for their vision, very active support and guidance, which enabled this event in the first place and enabled us to invite an esteemed bouquet of guests to deliver in the talks here. Secondly, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the speakers who made this session very enlightening with their positive, very accessible and transformative lectures covering various different aspects of holistic health. Now, in fact, the onus is onto us, the audience, to go back and reflect on all the discussions that have happened here and try to inculcate some of them in our lives. So thank you, all the speakers.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I would also like to thank our sponsors for this event, as well as for the complete G20S20 conclave. And finally, last but not the least, in fact, I would like to express my acknowledgements to the whole team of ICSMA, led by Dr. Varun. I have seen them work extremely, massively, tirelessly over the last few weeks, right? And Varun is my very good friend, and the whole team of ICSMA, including the staff, postdocs, students, have tirelessly worked to organize this event and made it a very big success. So I kindly request you all of you to give a big hand to the whole organizing team. Thank you very much.
Our next session will be at 3 o'clock in the guest house conference room. But I need to let you know that we are organizing a satsang program in the evening in my house along with the dinner. So I request all of you to join us in the satsang program in my house, and it's a good way to conclude the holistic health. Thank you.
Before we break for lunch, I have an important announcement to make, that we are also having a cultural program in the evening, which is going to be performed by various composers, and we have Pandit Subhendra Rao, who is going to be staged by Spick McKay at 7 p.m. in the same auditorium. And now I request all of you to come forward for a photograph. Once.
So those who are planning to attend the Speak Mackey event, that is of course in this auditorium as Dr. Ritu announced. For those of you who want to visit our Honorable Director's residence, I would request you to come to Dr. Ritu and just get your name and number and contact information noted so that we estimate how many guests we are expecting in the evening at our Honorable Director's home. Thank you again. And photograph?
Yes.
Yeah, so one collective photograph. So I would like all the speakers are where they are, but all the attendees can come down and we can all gather and huddle together and then have a photograph. And I would request the photographers to please suggest whether shall we come on the stage or stage pe aa jaye ya udhar hi khade ho jaye.
Everybody can come on the stage.
Stage. Okay, so please everyone come on the stage. I think we can all fit in the stage. It's a big stage. So quickly, so we can, and then after this will be lunch. Thank you.
Very fast. Everybody please kindly come very fast.
Yeah, all school children, all the attendees, visitors, please come quickly so that we can have a quick photo. It will be a memorable photo of all of you together.
It's like a department presentation.
आगे बैठ जाते हैं.
चलिए आगे हो जाइए.
यहाँ से मेरा सच बोलने की फीलिंग देख तू.
दाभड म्हणजे नांदेड डिस्ट्रिक्टमध्ये दाभड